How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be messing with billet aluminum valve bodies. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I want to do an upload on our new billet valve body we got from TSI here. Did an install video on it last night, and when I went to upload the video, come to find that had a little bit of technical difficulties, and our little knockoff GoPro, either I didn't hit the record button or there was a corruption on the video file on the card. I don't have the video content for it, but anyhow, I'll just do a little short video. We did get the valve body and stuff installed, and just, you know, a little walkthrough on what we did, and well, I'll quit rambling here and show it to you. Alright, guys, TSI Transmission Specialties, and this is our billet aluminum transbrake valve body for our Th400. As you can see, there's actually not much to it. You got your transbrake here, and a real nice machined billet piece. I think Jeg sells these too under their brand name, but no weird looking maze on the back. It's pretty straightforward. You got your park and neutral circuits, and your reverse, and your 3 forward gears. So anyhow, with this transbrake, the instructions say that you can put it in reverse or neutral to back up, but you will need to hit your transbrake button to complete the reverse circuit, so it applies fluid to your band and you can back up. Nothing real difficult as far as putting it on. Kind of caught me off guard. I'm used to using valve body gaskets. This uses an aluminum separator plate and no gaskets between either the valve body or the case. So I assume that they figure the aluminum's soft enough to take up any minor imperfections in there and seal everything up. They do recommend using like a wet stone or something to go over the case to make sure that there's no high spots in on your transmission case. But other than that, you know, torque your bolts down. Make sure you put a little bit of ATF on the threads just to help lubricate them. Torque your bolts. I do like 100 inch-pounds on them. You don't want to kill these things. They do not have to be super tight. You will strip the threads out of the case. Ask me how I know pertaining this one. This one actually pulled the threads when I was torquing these to the recommended spec, which is like 110 inch-pounds, 120 inch-pounds. So, which this might have been because on this rear servo cover, I ran what they call a low drag reverse shim, and what that does is it spaces this rear cover up like, I don't know, 120 thousandths of an inch, just to allow the rear band piston to relax fully so you don't get band drag on the rear drum. But so the bolt may have been just a tad short. The threads are cut pretty deep down in there, so I just got a longer bolt and, you know, ran it further down. Worked good, torqued good, everything's good there. I know there is ways to adjust these rear band pistons, and usually what guys will do is you can find it online, but they'll use a spare cover, and they'll thread drill a hole, tap it, thread a bolt in here, and they'll cut this servo cover in half, and then they'll take some measurements as far as, like, you know, where the band actually starts to apply and where it releases, and there's all sorts of adjustment stuff in there. I don't think I'm skilled enough to do all that and actually make an in-depth video. Plus, I don't have the servo and the spare cover to cut in half. So anyhow, we're gonna it didn't have any issues factory. Like when I took it apart, the band was actually in decent shape, and the drum was in decent shape. So I don't know. We'll let it ride, see what happens. If something goes south there and we have to pull this back out, well, you and I will learn at the same time then. So all in all, I think we are set to go back together on this thing. This valve body only uses one nylon check ball, and it's pretty decent size. It's like, I don't know, probably like a 5/16 diameter check ball. But other than that, it's very simplistic in its design. I'll see if I can throw a picture in here of the backside of the valve body. I really wanted to do just a kind of an overview of the valve body and its individual pieces for you guys. But unfortunately, I don't have the video, and at this point, everything is installed and torqued, and doesn't make any sense to take it back apart. So when you're putting it all together, make sure like you clean everything before you install it, because last thing you want is maybe the manufacturer missed some shavings and stuff when they were machining this valve body, and you got something in there. So just clean everything up real well, lubricate everything, lubricate your spool valve. When you're installing this, sometimes these might have a little walk to them, until you get all the bolts tightened up. Just make sure that your valve goes in nice and easy and it's not bound up on anything. Lubricate your trans valve, your transbrake solenoid there. Make sure that all works nice and good. And just be careful tightening the bolts up, and follow your directions that come with your valve body. But you are going to want to, this is why I kind of did this build, because there are the modifications that you have to do. We went over drilling a 16th inch bleed hole in the direct drum, or they call it the high gear drum, whatever. Put the piston back in the drum with only 2 lip seals, leave the center seal off. We did that. They come with heavier duty springs for your direct drum, so we installed those. It's got some electrical specs here. Solenoid pulls 6 to 8 amps. Use the spade connector for the kickdown lever. So in this one here, if you remember, originally, right about in this area, you would have had a kickdown solenoid, and you would have had the little plastic feed through here. You got your terminal on the outside comes through, so that's what we're going to use now for our power for our transbrake. And then they just give you, you just ground it to the case here. So solenoid pulls 6 to 8 amps. You need a pass-through connector for an SFI case. I don't have the cash for an SFI case, so I really don't care what the hell they're talking about as far as a pass-through connector. If that is your situation, Google's your friend. Minimum 16 gauge wire and minimum 20 amp fuse. Must use a stock 400 modulator valve. So your modulator valve in here, where you would have your vacuum modulator, they give you a plug. You have to use an unmodified modulator valve. So do not grind it or anything. There's different modifications out there for valve bodies, like stock looking stuff, and they want just stock. No case modification needed. Use a whetstone or flat file over the case to remove any high spots to prevent crossover. Obviously, you would want to do that before you assembled everything and before you did your final cleaning of your case to assemble it. Do not use the intermediate servo, intermediate band, or servo spring. We don't have an intermediate band in this one. We removed the servo. Remember, that's where our case saver goes, the 1 bolt to locate that goes up through. Use stock springs and parts to install rear servo. Did that. The 2 accumulator rings may be removed. So the accumulator is still in there, but there are no sealing rings on it. And they recommend Teflon rings in the center support. So, all in all, I don't know if you can see that real well. That's what the back side of the valve body looks like. You know, very minimum passages. They're showing you an area there where the check ball is. I know it's not real great. I'll see if I can get a better picture of it. Here's our neutral or reverse for backing up. If you're running more than 250 PSI, you need a minimum of 14 volts at the starting line with all applicable accessories running. So make sure you have a good battery and alternator in your vehicle. You must install safety electronics to prevent the transbrake from engaging by accident when not intended. So pretty much what I planned on, and just run a single toggled on and off switch between your power source coming into your transbrake button, so that you can break that circuit. So if somebody accidentally bumps the transbrake button while you're going down the road, you don't scatter this thing all over the place. So anyhow, that is about all I can offer you guys as far as this. It's not really an install, just more of an overview and kind of an update as to where we're at on the transmission. I am gonna get the filter in this thing, get the pan buttoned up on it, and I gotta put the tail shaft housing on it yet, and we are about ready to rock and roll and get this thing in the car. So stay tuned, and I appreciate you guys watching and your comments, and hopefully we'll get this thing in the car, go make some, well, hopefully it works, right? Remember, I'm not a transmission builder. This is my first time doing this, so, you know, we'll see what happens, but stay tuned. Till next time, take care. Thanks for watching.